Despite the lightweight division not currently having a champion, Charles Oliveira is widely regarded to be the best in the division, having recently been stripped for missing weight. He gets the chance to fight for the title again soon enough, and Islam Makhachev must be worried about both his grappling and knockout power. Today, we are discussing every brutal knockout Charles Oliveira has ever delivered, so stay right where you are. First up, we're starting with his latest KO against Michael Chandler. Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler went to war for the vacant UFC lightweight title back in May 2021, with both men bringing the heat. The fight was stopped in the second round, but Chandler was competitive throughout, and at points during the bout, it even looked as though he was getting the better of the Brazilian. Having landed bombs throughout, Chandler was looking dangerous, so Charles decided to shoot for the takedown, but ended up in a guillotine choke. However, Chandler doesn't possess much of a ground game, so he didn't particularly have the noose to be able to finish Bronx. If it was the opposite situation, you can almost certainly bet that Charles would have finished the guillotine. Oliveira eventually ended up on Chandler's back, but he was surprisingly able to defend and get back to his feet. Chandler almost knocked Oliveira out himself, but the Brazilian miraculously survived some pretty brutal ground and pound to see out the round. The second round was over almost as quickly as it had begun, as Oliveira connected with a short left hook which knocked Iron Mike to the floor. He recovered to get back to his feet, but was wobbling and Charles smelt blood. He rained down knees, elbows, and punches, and the writing was on the wall for Chandler, who attempted to escape along the fence. However, Bronx caught him with a huge left to the chin, followed by a few more on the floor to secure lightweight gold. Next up, we're talking Jared Gordon. Stick around. Brazil met USA in this lightweight bout from 2019 in Oliveira's hometown of Sao Paulo. At the time, Charles was in the middle of his current win streak and came to this one having won his last 5. Gordon, on the other hand, had lost 2 out of his past 3, so knowing what we know, this one looked like a bit of a mismatch in hindsight. Charles got the job done in the very first round, after the pair had opened in exciting fashion, with neither afraid to come forward. However, Charles showed his excellent striking, which is sometimes underrated given how incredible his ground game is, with a short right which was so fast you would have done well to have seen it even on the replay. The shot rocked Gordon and sent him crashing to the canvas, but he did his best to get back up. Of course, Bronx knew he had his man right where he wanted him, and he was not about to let him off the hook. As Gordon tried to get back up, Charles delivered a right uppercut which sent Jared crashing back down against the fence. The Brazilian followed him to the ground and delivered another couple of right hands, but it was a formality at that point, as Gordon was out cold, a quite devastating knockout. Did you guys realize Charles Oliveira had this sort of striking ability? Let us know your favorite knockout of all time below. We're talking Nick Lentz now. Stay where you are. By the time Oliveira and Lentz met in May 2019, it was the third time the pair had gone to war. After the first fight ended in a no contest thanks to an illegal knee, the fight was scheduled again for May 2015, with Charles going away with the submission win. Fast forward 4 years, and they were at it again, but the fight would again turn out badly for Nick. Having attempted a tired-looking body kick, Oliveira simply caught Lentz's leg before delivering a right hand from hell right to the chin of Nick. Even on the replay, his head seemed to fly backwards at breakneck speed, and of course, he fell straight backwards onto the canvas. As every professional MMA athlete is taught from day one, you follow your man down to the mat to finish the job once you knock them down, which is exactly what Bronx did. He delivered a series of hammer fists to the face and head of Nick, but the referee was quick to stop any more punishment and waved off the fight. Unfortunately for Lentz, he had come up short against Oliveira once again, but he shouldn't worry, as the Brazilian has since gone on to prove he is the best lightweight in the world. What did you make of the Lentz knockout, and who is your favorite lightweight of all time? Back to the very start now, with KOs against Andrade and Braga in the same night. At the very start of his career, Charles took part in a welterweight Grand Prix at Predator FC9 and actually fought 3 times in the same evening. Having dispatched his first opponent via submission in his pro debut, he was out again shortly after against fellow future UFC fighter Viscardi Andrade. With the pair wildly swinging at each other in the second, Oliveira landed a huge right hand to send Andrade sprawling to the canvas. He is then given the freedom of Sao Paulo to land what seemed to be an inordinate amount of hammer fists to his downed opponent. Having pinned his opponent's arm with his knee, he was able to swing both fists, but at this point, finally, the ref had seen enough and waved off the fight for Charles' second professional win and second on the night. A short time later, he was back in the octagon to take on Diego Braga. With the pair on the mat and Oliveira in dominant position in full mount, he trapped Braga's arm and was able to deliver some big shots to the head. His opponent eventually got his arm free, but had literally given up all position at this point and was simply eating shots without reply. The referee had seen enough, and Charles had stormed to a 3-0 professional record in the very same evening. Whatever you make of MMA, you have to applaud a man who fights 3 times in one night. Incredible work. What do you make of his early career? Best of the rest now. Stay tuned. After exploding onto the scene at Predator FC 9, Oliveira followed that up with a knockout win over future UFC alum Mehdi Baghdad in his very next fight. The TKO win came at Kawhi Arena 1, again in Oliveira's hometown, with Bronx finishing the Algerian Frenchman in the very first round. Next time out, in his 5th and 6th fights, he again fought in the same night at Korea Fight 1, which strangely for the name of the tournament took place in Sao Paulo. Charles would finish both of his opponents that evening in December 2008, knocking Daniel Fernandez clean out to move to 5-0 and just hours later scoring a TKO win over Eleni Silva. Incredibly, this pair of wins moved Charles to a professional record of 6-0 with 5 consecutive knockouts, which for a man who is renowned as a BJJ expert is quite something. Fast forward to February 2010, and Charles was back to fighting multiple times in one night. At the Warriors Challenge 5 event in Portobello, Brazil, he first submitted to Rosanildo Roja before going on to KO Diego Battaglia via slam, which was reminiscent of that famous Rampage Jackson slam KO over Ricardo Arona. What is the best knockout finish in Oliveira's career so far in your opinion? Give us your thoughts below. And finally, Paddy Pimblett has made his pick for the upcoming lightweight title fight. Paddy, the baddie, seems to be everywhere at the moment, and he will be watching this one with keen interest, given the fact that it's the division which he one day hopes to reign over. Oliveira and Makhachev will do battle in October, and the Russian is the clear betting favorite at the moment, but Pimblett is siding with the Brazilian. People continue to overlook Charles, but not the popular man from Liverpool. Paddy was in the house at last weekend's UFC San Diego event and fielded questions about the upcoming title fight. Of course, he acknowledged that it was to be a big fight, before predicting that Charles is going to be too much for him. Pimblett, who was the victim of a lame trolling campaign by Bobby Green at the same event, went on to say, "I think Charles will finish him in 3 rounds. He's also fought much higher caliber opponents, more dangerous fighters, and he's come through on the other side of them. I just think he has too many tools in his arsenal for Islam to deal with." People continue to write Oliveira off, but at this point in his career, he has enough about him to beat any lightweight on the planet, no doubt about it. Who do you have when these two dance at UFC 280 this October? As usual, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to swing by again next time for some more fun reveals. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video with any UFC heads you might know of. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Adios, amigos.